what's happening, man? Man, I haven't done a defrag in a while. I don't know if I would necessarily call this a defrag though, but I did a video called Dead Simulation Theory. I think it was called like AI Carnegie, which is a reference to the Book of Eli. Really good movie. But I rewatched it because I was like, did I really talk about the internet part of that whole thing, or did I just talk about like overall simulation? And I came to the realization that I only talked about, the overall augmented and simulated nature of our perceived. Today, and for the past like couple weeks, actually, off and on, it's multiple times things have been sent to me that have like made me aware of certain things that are going on within these circles that try to supposedly talk about like divergent theory and apparent truth that's not really allowed to be discussed on a grand stage and things like that. And today it happened again, and it kind of made me think about all these things in totality and be like, dude, this is such a fucking weird thing, and it's being done not really that well for so few people to be aware of it or acknowledge or notice it, that it's kind of confusing to me. So I'll give you an example. Some of my videos have been shared by myself and by others on Reddit, right? And one of the ones that I shared personally, the moderator came back and said, I deleted your post for false information. And this is the video, one of the videos, because there's, I think, two or three actually now that kind of fit into this. But I posted it to Gang Stalking Truth, I believe. And the reason I posted it there is because, I'm not trying to tell people whether or not there are people following them or outside their windows or doing noise campaigns, because to be honest, those things are real. Those things happen. There are interviews with ex-agency people who say they do that. They're very well-known tactics. They do those things. They do. But the jump in numbers of how many people believe they're being gang stalked, there is another explanation for that. It's your intuition. It's your senses are telling you that you're being monitored and watched, because you are, but in a digital manner, in a technological manner. It's not necessarily people specifically there doing the thing. It's being done remotely. And so I've been, putting videos up. I'm sure potentially. If not, go watch those. They're very informative and not based in opinion. I'm reading from peer-reviewed studies. It's them saying the technologies that they have and what they're capable of doing. But there are so many people that feel that way now. It's at such a progressive number. The number is progressing so much because now they're able to do these things through technology and do it remotely. So, for instance, people feeling like they're being watched or listened to, it's because you are, just not directly. Not, there's not a bug hidden in your wall. There are cameras in most screens, but, sometimes I wonder if it's just like a throwaway, like, oh, well, we can use these cameras if they find it, whatever. We still have this, and this. Anyway, so this moderator sends me a message saying he deleted the post for false information. And at first, when I read that sentence, I'm like, oh, well, this is both weird but expected. Because most people don't even believe in that shit. That person maybe has this subreddit just to make some money. A lot of those moderators, they have like 15 or 20 different subs that they make. They run it like a podcast network or something like that. Multiple channels, multiple subreddits. But then I keep reading, and he says gang stalking is done by reptilians, jinn, and demons. Not the CIA, not the FBI. Those were his words. Not, a lot of the time, but then sometimes those agencies, or, sometimes this, sometimes that. But it's not the real, tangible entities that you know and are aware of, and there are thousands of stories of them doing literally these things to people. Even in an analog sense, plenty of declassified documents of them doing what is now thought of as gang stalking. No, it's not that. It's reptilians, demons, and jinn. And because I'm talking about technology that they are telling you they have in medical journals, official medical journals, what I've posted is false information. It really, really upset me in the moment. And then the more I thought about it, I'm like, oh, what the fuck? I'm talking to one of them. And then that kind of led me back to this concept that has been coming back around every few weeks, that not only is dead internet theory, search results. Most of the time when people talk about dead internet theory, they're talking about search results. That's the example that they use. But it's at a much more grand scale than that. There's fake accounts. People are aware that there are fake users on Twitter and Instagram and stuff like that. It's very obvious when it happens. I think a lot of that is to boost the numbers of those influencers that everyone loves so much, because they're kind of sheepish in their mentality. When people see high numbers, they're like, oh, I gotta love that. I don't know what's up with that. It's very strange, but it does happen. It's not fabricated. People do think like that. Mr. Beast and Fauci and all those Kai Cenat. I don't know all the names of them, but like the more numbers someone is perceived to have, the more people like feel like they belong to something watching them or paying attention to them. I don't really get that, but anyway, the fake accounts, that isn't necessarily nefarious, or it didn't start out that way. But then when you start to add the context of things like, I make videos and I put them on YouTube, and I, utilize social media like Instagram. I don't use Twitter. And I've been trying to use Reddit, but obviously that's fucking weird, for, trying to get more eyeballs on the videos that I make, because, that I have an aversion to those things at first, and then I realize, all right, well, you got to swallow your pride and stop being such a contrarian. Just try it, use it, or whatever. And you start to notice that these fake accounts are used for more nefarious reasons. Like, for instance, a lot of the interaction that I get on YouTube, those are bots. The comments, if you follow those accounts back, you notice that either they were created very recently and have very little activity on YouTube, or they're very, very old, meaning that it was an account somebody had, they probably lost the password or something to that effect, and it's been jacked, it's been taken over, and now it's being used to give the illusion of being a person versus a bot. And so these accounts can do things. They can affect your overall kind of outcome. Meaning YouTube uses your not algorithm, your numbers to kind of position you in their algorithm. So if you have a high watch time percentage, obviously they want people on the app actively. So if you have a high watch time average, then you get pushed up in the algorithm. So these bot accounts will go to your videos and then watch 10 seconds of it and then leave. And that brings your average time down, which also brings you down in algorithms. So I'm kind of doing myself a disservice by not constantly asking you all to share videos and hit like buttons and share with a friend, tell a friend and all that stuff. It just feels so disingenuous to talk like that sometimes that I don't. You know, I've said to share a few videos that felt extra important, but I would hope that people, if they feel like something is cool, would share it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe people need to hear it out loud or something. I don't know. I'm still getting used to this. I don't want to be an influencer. I'm not trying to be an influencer. I genuinely want people to hear these things and know about these things and help each other and so on and all the other shit I talk about. It's difficult. I'm still grappling with it. But it's very difficult and discouraging when you start to realize how much of the internet is not real. That's kind of the main point of what I'm trying to say. A lot of this shit isn't real, man. You think you're talking to a person, or you think you're interacting with someone who genuinely likes your shit, or you think that you're genuinely interacting with another being on a social media platform. And that's also a part of dead internet theory. It's not just search results. It's also the fact that agencies, I'll say, I really don't like saying CIA and FBI because I don't want to get fucking murdered, but that's who it is. They have whole office buildings, I'm sure, of analysts who pretend to be people and do nefarious shit on the internet, on Instagram, on Twitter, on YouTube. And that shit can get dark. You know, you see there's a kind of lane of people that start off looking into conspiracy stuff, but then they get into this like, I don't know if it's just narcissistic abuse stuff, but to make a long story short, they talk people into harming themselves. And if you take into account that a lot of these users are not real users, it's a dude in a fucking polo shirt at a agency building telling someone to hurt themselves. That shit's dark. That's fucking dark, bro. You know? Like, and I want to blame it on dead internet theory, but then when you talk to some of these people in person, the aversion that they have to like paying attention to these things or even entertaining them as true, it's disturbing. Like, people really don't want these things in their forefront. They don't want to see these things because it's, I don't know what I'm not even going to say what the reasons are. Everyone, I'm sure, has their own reasons. But what I will say is that's what perpetuates this shit. That's what keeps it going, is for people to be like, you know what? Not my business. Or, you know what? I don't believe that's fucking real. You can read all the stuff you want to, but even with your documentation, I don't want to believe that's real. Meanwhile, you know, if you go to look at declassified documentation and stories from dudes that claim to be ex-CIA or ex Black Project, FBI, and DARPA and all that shit, they say that they do these things. And I don't believe in ex-CIA or dark. If you work for fucking DARPA or some shit like that, they're not going to let you stop working for them, bro. Even if you may stop working for them, but that doesn't mean that when you stop working for them, you can go on podcasts and tell the real truth, you know? There's been like a trend of dudes. There's that curly headed dude that kind of looks like I want to say like of Middle Eastern descent or something like that. He's been on a lot of podcasts, and people eat that shit up. And it's like, do you really believe that the CIA is allowing this dude to go on podcasts that get millions of views and talk about their real shit? You know? Why would you believe that? I don't understand why you would believe that shit. It's very strange, and it's like I said, it's discouraging. I'm not going to stop like making videos or anything like that, but to know the level to which all of this internet shit is fabricated and moderated heavily sucks, and it doesn't really seem like too many people give a fuck. We use the internet for so much that it's really, really fucked up when you start to think about how fake it actually is. And people know it to like little tiny degrees, but they're not putting all of it together. Like a lot of people have come around to the fact that people will fake situations to go viral. A lot of people are aware of that. Many others are aware of glows, so like fake, users that are actually agency workers, let's call them. I don't want to say that they're all agents. They might be analysts. You may not step a foot in the field a day in your life. You just sit at a desk and you troll people all day for a living for the government. People are aware of these things. View shaving on YouTube, being shadow banned. That's the fact that is a term, that someone created the term shadow banned. Like, if you put all of these things together, you should start to see how fake the entirety of the internet is. It's not to say that you don't see anything real. I've talked to people, I haven't met them in person, so, take that as you will, but I've talked to people that have watched my videos. I've met people through this, walk that I've started. But I think a good portion of that is so that there's a balance. You can't fake everything, or people are going to finally at some point say, hey, it seems like none of this is actually getting out there, What I'm saying, I'm not saying it in an absolute sense. Nothing is absolute, I don't believe. What I'm saying is that so much of it is fake and perpetuated narratives and censorship and distractions and all the shit people talk about. But have you ever noticed how compartmentalized it is? Like this section isn't necessarily permitted or allowed to be applied to this section over here. So if someone's talking about like, I don't know, fake stuff to go viral, that algorithm or those algorithms don't really like cross streams with glows or with fake narratives that get pushed and algorithmically supported. Like, it's almost in a sense, sure, you can know we're doing a little bit of fake shit, but the concept of putting all of those things together and then looking at it and saying, damn, the internet is mostly fake, that's not happening. There aren't many people directly saying that in that way, and I'll preface, I'll say there are lots of beings that are like, oh, all this shit is fake. But like, it's that thing that I talk about sometimes where they'll say that and then they'll go and rant about politics for 30 minutes. Or they'll go talk about some celebrity being, their house being raided for some wild shit. You know what I'm talking about. So like, they take a step after they've realized something or said something, proclaimed something, and then they'll instantly like forget everything that they just said. This is all fake. Did you see when they kicked in dude's door? Like, it's it's very counterintuitive and counterproductive. And I think it's like keeping us all in a loop. It's keeping us all in a loop. The internet is useful. It is very, very useful in communicating. And people have said, you know, we're able to get information far, like across the world in seconds. But there's a duality to that where your information is very easily, intercepted and potentially manipulated. I've talked about how when I do videos, a lot of the time there's weird filters added to it. Shit gets like certain sections of videos used to get glitched out. Those things happen a little less now, but they still happen. I never gave a fuck. I just think it's interesting that such petty, immature, tactics are taken to try to subvert or discourage people from talking about specific things. Some of them become badges of honor, like the context being added to videos on YouTube. That's kind of funny to me. You know, when context gets added, like when it adds a Wikipedia post for what the Anunnaki is and how it's a conspiracy theory. Anunnaki is... So the Anuna are not a conspiracy theory. That there is a text. There is a, claimed to be old texts, the Sumerian texts and the Enuma Elish and all that shit. That's not conspiracy theory. What's conspiracy theory is the narratives that have been added to the Anuna story and the creation myth of the Babylonians and Sumerians by people like Zachariah Sitchin and fucking Billy Carson and all of... There's like whole sections of YouTube and I mean, now it's just... There's thousands of people that believe that shit now. Those specific narratives. It took something real and then started to add all this other shit to it. And my rule of thumb is once it surpasses a certain level, at least with how things are now, that's when it becomes sketchy. When you are allowed to talk about, Inky and Enlil and how they're back on the planet and the Galactic Federation is doing this and that and the White Hats are storming this blah, blah, blah. Does it seem like those things are being suppressed, Because if they were being suppressed, then it would be like, oh shit, there must be something to that. But the fact that it gets like, Billy Carson's rich off that shit. Zachariah Sitchin's books, have never been suppressed. Those are the types of things that they add context to. And it's kind of fucked up because within that sense, it's like genius balance. Because in a sense, the internet and I'll say intelligence, they're playing both sides. They're perpetuating the narratives of that Anunnaki shit. There was that audio that was released of some politician saying the Anunnaki's back and everyone's talking about it on the floor. They're pushing that shit, but then also being like, don't you fucking talk about it. Because they know how our brains work. They know that when they say, don't talk about this, it's not true, that we all look at each other like, oh, it must be true. So now, instead of doing that in a genuine sense, now they're creating narratives and then making you think that they don't want you to talk about it. But if you talk about something that they really don't want you to talk about, they don't waste any of that time doing that. They just cut you the fuck off. They delete your posts. They tell you like, oh, it's because it's false information and we just won't have that. That's when you know you're talking about something that may have some legs. It may have some truth to it. And I'm just not seeing a lot of people noticing that. All the people, like the channelers, sections, the magic user sections, astrology, and, secret space program sections and all that stuff, flat earth, All of these things are not only allowed, they're pushed. They're very algorithmically supported. So like, are you talking about a conspiracy or are you perpetuating a narrative? You know? That's why I mean like dude, that's why I started reading from studies, because it's like this isn't me just like in a dark room smoking cigarettes back to back, like, they can, it's not like it used to be. You can find the information where they're publishing this shit for each other. And at the very least, what I've said a lot is, even if the thing is not true, why is it public? Why do they want you to think that that is true? But a lot of those things, you can see those things in real life. The technologies that I read in those peer-reviewed study videos, you can see them testing it. You can go look up the thing from each study, and you'll find videos, articles, interviews with the people that are experimenting or inventing these things. But people don't want to see that, and then there are intelligence agencies wiping it or suppressing it. Those are the real things that are happening. The other more metaphysical stuff, not at all saying that those things aren't happening. I'm just saying they want you to talk about that more because you can't substantiate it. You can drive yourself and other people crazy with that and never even stumble upon the other real things that they're doing currently, many of them to you and to me. They would much rather you talk about, reptilians and fucking demons and shit. And a lot of that, it goes back to those technologies. They can make you see that shit with this technology. They can make you see that shit, feel it, smell it, touch it, all of that through technology. And I think the reason that that's significant or important is because if we were to pay attention to those things, maybe enough of us could say, you know what, that's fucked up. We're not going for that anymore. And not only could we demand, or find ways to get rid of those things or block those things, detox those things, but we could also keep them from doing it if there were enough of us to actually even pay attention to it. But it's discouraging because the main tool that we have is not really our tool. I've said this before, but I don't think I consciously realized how fucked it is. The internet is not ours. Even the little semblance of ownership we thought we had, free speech and all that shit, that's not real, brother, on the internet. Brother, you know what I mean? That's not real, because not only are they censoring things directly and indirectly, shadow banning and banning, just outright banning, but also fake narratives are being created and perpetuated, fake pages, fake influencers, platforms give you the illusion of being able to have a specific voice, but you're only allowed to talk about certain things, and even the ones that you think are counterculture or conspiratorial, those are only allowed if they're way off base. The more off base you are, the more you are allowed to speak and be supported. But when you speak about things that are more on the nose, that's when you start to see little weird nefarious shit like being scrubbed from certain platforms, your numbers getting shaved, counterintuitive things happening with other creators. It's very discouraging and dark, So I don't know. Dead internet theory is way more vast than anyone is giving acknowledgement to. And it's dangerous because we're all kind of like relying on the internet. We're all relying on the internet for most of what we do. And it's a husk. It's always been a husk, actually. So it's not a husk. It's It's an illusion of something, and a very, very crafty one at that, because there are plenty of conspiracy people now, but many of those are probably not real conspiracy people, or truth people, whatever you want to call them. They're pushing narratives to that are dangerous, to make people pretty much lose their fucking minds, and we're not really doing anything about it. I mean, and I'm not just putting it on intelligence agencies and shit. This is on people too. This is on beings. I've talked to, more times than not, when I talk to people about some of these things, the level to which they will defend the opposite of what I'm saying is pretty sad. You know? It's a level of cognitive dissonance that I would not expect from those that are at least open-minded enough to look into these things. It's very disheartening. It's confirmation bias on another level, like a different kind of confirmation bias. You want your conspiracy theory to be true in the way that you have found it so badly that when someone presents you like, hey, look what I found, look at all this technology that explains a lot of what you're talking about, people get pissed. Oh, a good example, I've talked about it before, but ascension symptoms. Look out for Charlie, Emily Moyer. Like, there are other beings that are talking about the real reason for this shit. David Case. There are beings that talk about these things, but like, most people don't want to hear that shit. They want it to be fucking ascension symptoms, and I get that. But if it's not that, don't you want to know? Don't you want to know if you're being attacked and told that it's something good? I was glad to know that, because then I cut out a lot of that dumb shit that I was doing that was making it worse. You know, not only are they doing that ascension symptom shit, but they're also, okay, perfect example. I found a peer-reviewed study just because I wanted to double check something that I had a feeling about. In 2020, they said, if you get that thing, don't take ibuprofen. Do not take ibuprofen. It makes it so much worse. How about ibuprofen in tandem with an antifungal medication fights candida? Keep forgetting how to say it. Which candida is, or candida, I don't fucking know, dude. Is the vehicle used for that spike protein, for that mRNA stuff, for, whatever you want to call it. So, to put that in plain words, the medication that fights against that thing, they told you not to take it. They told you not to take it. So the thing that would have helped you somewhat, they told you not to take that. And so, like, it is just wild to me, the level to which even the beings that believe themselves to be contrarians and truthers and all this shit are not putting in real research. They're not, like, open to hearing different answers, and that sucks, man. I started off saying there's not that many of us, but it just continues to be true. It continues to be proven to be true. The part that is newer or such, I really thought that the more people would see these things and be like, holy fuck, we gotta get it, we gotta let everybody know. But most people are like, nah, they just don't want it to be that, because maybe it seems too daunting or too grandiose to fight against or something like that. But that's victim mentality. We could try. We could at least try. I don't know. I'm rambling now. I'm gonna get the fuck out of here, dog. Later.